Hi, and welcome to Culture of Paint. In this episode, we're joined by a very special guest, Neil Hollis, the Slayer sword winner of the recent Golden Demon USA over in Adepticon this last weekend. So we'll have a good natter about that, and we'll close the show out as usual, having a look at what the hashtag Paint Cultists have been up to. Now, Culture of Paint is aimed at a mature audience, and we might use explicit language and discuss adult themes. Now let's talk about paint. I mean, I say talk about paint. I'll probably squeak about paint for about 30 seconds and then just leave it to the rest of you.
I think you sound hot.
I think we're in. We've got the chat in there. Lovely. Yeah, we're good to go. Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Henry, and joining me, as usual, are Andy, Matt, and Rich, and our very special guest and returning guest, Neil. Hello, gents. How are we?
All good, mate.
Knackered. Jet lagged.
Jet lag. Well, I mean, this is it. This is hot off the press. Hold the whatever
back page.
There we go. It's
the exclusive. Remember the exclusive.
Sorry.
Interview. Yeah. Sign the deal.
We really must get better at this clickbait. But everyone looking well. Everyone ready to chat about a ton of lovely looking miniatures that we've seen. We're gonna slightly shorten the show today, guys, or make it so we have the main topic a little bit longer, give it a bit more airtime. So we're going to skip our picks of the week, but essentially go and have a look at the Warhammer community website with the Adepticon leaks, because we'd have been chatting about Seraphon basically for 30 minutes.
All big Terminators.
And there we go, all big Terminators. Yeah, so I'm sure we'll come to them later.
Next episode.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there. But thankfully we've got a ton of pictures. In fact, all the pictures from the winners. Kudos to G-Dub for getting them up within about 24 hours, I think, this time, which is great, right? Which is a big improvement from the last one. So you've got to recognise the positives. So if you want to take a look at anything, all the entries, you can go and check them out there. We'll stick the link in the description. But all we're going to do is pick a few of our favourites and have a good old chat to Neil, two-time Slayer sword winner, Neil Hollis.
He can dual wield his Slayer swords now.
This is it.
Yeah, I'm equal with Andy. That's the.
Well, I'm going to come to this later, so hold that thought. We will spice that up a little bit later on. So I have no idea what order the slides and things are in. So let's fire it up and have a look.
I figured while we're all fresh, we'll just go straight into it.
That's a nice
Here
model.
it is. The third best Dark Angel release that we saw over the last week.
Well, actually, Neil and I discussed, and we were saying, is this better than Asriel?
Well, I think we did chat, didn't we, when we did the Glow Up episode the other week, that this was a very nice homage, a nostalgic nod, to Dark Angel's mini, right? Is the model straight out of the box, Neil? Have you made any tweaks to him?
I mean, quite a minor tweak. I changed his main power sword and changed it over to more of a thinner, more delicate looking sword. Yeah. That's about it, really. Other than that, everything's stock. No, I don't think the model didn't need much, to be fair. I mean, it's an absolutely amazing model. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. My favourite bit is how he holds the sword. Because a lot of sword arms that trail down are very straight, but he has his sort of wrist turned out slightly, so it sort of hangs in a very natural way. And I think it's easy to forget how good that looks, because you see some other ones and it's just like very swords like straight in front of them, and it doesn't look very good. But the sword arm is amazing.
I think the sword change is essential, and it made me like the model a lot more. I think the power swords have got to be chunky for the aesthetic GW have gone for, but I think it makes them look a bit toyish because they're so fat.
We've said, haven't we? It's one of those things that makes an instant. You sit up and take notice, don't you, when you see a Warhammer model with a more realistically proportioned, if you want to call it that, weapon.
That's why I like it, yeah.
Yeah, because it is in the artwork. If you look at the artwork, a lot of the weapons are chunky, but they're still nowhere near the chunk that you get in the on the miniatures or in the animations that GW do. So I think it's a nice touch. Is it from the Vamps kit? One of the Vamps kits?
It's a Soul Blight Gravelord sword.
Yeah.
I don't know which one. I knew I wanted a thin sword, so I just did loads of Googling and then found one on a bit site. When that'll do. It was covered in like little potholes and marks, and I just sort of did a lot of those in to sort of make it a little bit more pristine. And yeah, it was a very simple swap, really, but I do think it does help.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's quite a lot of story, right, behind this mini and your paint job of it and whatnot. So why don't you tell us a tale, Uncle Neil? And right the way from why did you
as old as time?
Why did you get this? How many decades ago did you first enter it in Golden Demon, and how have we got to today?
Yeah, so I mean, this was started. Funny, if I look back on my photos on Instagram, and I started it on the 20th of March 2020. So we're talking, COVID's just hit 3 years ago. Oh, what am I going to do? I think I'll sit down and paint some Golden Demon entries. And I started it way back then. And it's had some changes over time. And I worked out that with the base, which we'll go into in a second, the base, I've changed the base 8 times for this model. So
needs to be bigger.
Yeah.
8th time lucky, mate. 8th time lucky.
Yeah. 8 times is the
like
charm.
Through to completion each time, or
well, nearly. I mean, hold on, I'll show you one of the versions that probably not many people have seen.
Exclusive.
Hang on, let me flip back to the big camera.
Oh wow!
That one was literally virtually paint. It was like 90% painted, and then I decided to make it smaller. And of course, making it small, I made that version smaller for Golden Demon UK, and that was still deemed to be a little bit too big. So I entered it into a cake single, with the hope of that'll be fine. There's no restriction. That'll be fine. That, however, didn't pan out. So it got moved into diorama in that demon, and that was a bit of a disaster for me because obviously dioramas is a fantastic category, but one bloke standing on his own in a church doesn't really make a diorama. So having it in dio sort of really, it didn't do any favours. After that, I decided, well, maybe I had 2 options after that. I thought I could either build it into a diorama, add loads of stuff on it and try and do something, or just rebase it completely. So I went for the rebasing option. The base I'd made in the end, I'd 3D designed and had it 3D printed. So it was very easy just to go back into the file, cut out a section, print that small section, and then use that for the base. So it was quite a simple process to rebase it, really. So that only took about a week and a half just to get the base redone. So in the end, that's what I went for.
Someone's just put a good comment in the chat. You've got the base for the lion already built.
Well, that is true. Yeah, I mean, and that's not sitting too far away, and that's perfectly painted and ready to go. So yeah, I could always put the lion on the bigger base.
I like Andrew's asking in the chat, was Dark Angels a strategic choice? I mean, if Neil's got that kind of foresight,
if I could predict that 3 years out, I mean, I think I'd be Mystic Meg's replacement.
There we are. R.I.P.
Yeah. I'll pick the lottery numbers if I could have predicted that.
I was going to say, should we get on the Euro Millions this week?
Okay.
Yeah.
Golden Demon 2024, lions everywhere, 20 lions. Yeah, I think we may well.
Well, we know Fulgrim's coming out next to Adepticon, right? Because that's what it's going to be.
Is it? There we are. Exclusive.
I'm just saying it now.
Another
so when
exclusive.
people go back, they can say that he knew. That's what will happen.
Oh no! But does that suggesting you're going to do Fulgrim for?
Well, no. Maybe I'll do an Emperor, some sort of Emperor's Children, and then everyone will say he knew.
Just a tangent, ever so slightly. Your other Slayer sword winner was a Marine as well, a Primarch, admittedly.
Yes.
Is that your thing? Like, do you just love big, chunky blokes in armor?
I always love painting Marines. Like, literally, it's my favorite. And I think if you're gonna do a Golden Demon, you better do something that you enjoy painting. Otherwise, what's the point? And I spent. I did loads of. I did Perturab. I'm trying to think all my entries. I've probably painted more Marines than anything else. as even for Golden Demon. So this is sort of, yeah, I think I do like Elder as well, but I quite like smooth armor. I'm not a big fan of anything that's too textured or, you know, are quite rough. So yeah, Space Marine power armor has always been my favourite. But yeah, I think I'll probably do more in the future as well.
Well, in that case, what made you choose this chap? Because it's lockdown, it's this, it's that's the other. But what was this miniature in and of itself? This, you know, it's not a heresy miniature. This is a Primaris miniature, relatively early on in their story. I mean, I think we hadn't seen many chapter specific Primaris when this you just started this, would we? I don't think we wouldn't have had Black Templars or anything like that. So what made you go, yes, this is going to be an entry that's worth me spending my time on? And you know, I assume you go into the competition going, I'm going for the sword. So what's this piece gonna do, you know?
I think for me, I mean, I wanted to paint a Primaris because at this time, before I painted this guy, I'd done lots of heresy stuff. So nearly all my stuff had been heresy based. So I thought to myself, well, I want to do a Primaris Marine for a Golden Demon. And I literally just went through the GW website, just, you know, looking at all the different, I think I sometimes just typed in hero or captain and just, you know, see what it would chuck out. And literally just going through the website, it just jumped out at me. I just thought, oh, that's the one I want to paint. So I, straight away got it ordered, got it through mail order, and just started working away on it. Really, I think you sort of know straight away if you see a model that you really love, it hits you pretty quick. I don't think it takes much thought process. I think if you try and break something down and analyze it too much, you're probably doing it wrong.
It's the holding the helmet, isn't it? That's what makes it.
Holding the helmet, the head as well is brilliant. Like the sculpt on the head is amazing. Holding the helmet was cool, and there was just every detail on it I just really liked. And I think when you paint a Golden Demon entry, you end up working on every little detail for maybe weeks on end, you know, and you're looking at every part of it. So you discover more and more about the model as you're painting it, and it was just a joy to paint, really, just going over each little bit. And there's all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff, like on the little dagger, it's like you can tell that the dagger's slightly open, and you can see a bit of the blade, and then on the dagger, it's got like a Dark Angel's crest. And if you look on the reverse of the dagger, a bit you can't see, there's actually like the chain and links are on the reverse of it that where it would clip to the belt. It's like, you know, it's just little things like that you just think, oh my God, it's like sculpted in areas that you think it doesn't need to be sculpted there. So
well, Primaris certainly has allowed them to do that, hasn't it? Given them a lot more real estate around the waist area to do cool little doodads like that. Okay, so this wasn't necessarily a huge Dark Angels fanboy or anything like that. It was just this is the one. Yeah. This is
I think this is the first Dark Angel I've ever painted as well. I don't think I've never painted another. Yeah, and the weird thing was, I remember someone saying to me, "How did you come up with the green recipe?" I went, "Well, I looked at my paint drawer and picked out 3 green colours." I was like, "That one, that one, that one. There we go."
Caliban green.
It was Caliban. Yeah, because I picked colours. You know, they often go quite yellowy, don't they, with the armour on the. I just picked 3 colours of green that I thought would work, and just cracked on with them. I didn't
work.
Didn't bother thinking about it. Just picked 3 greens out. I go, off we go.
Done all right then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really lovely way to sort of hear about someone starting a project, because it's quite different to how other people that we've spoken to might approach things, or other people that you see their work and how they approach things. But with regards to the project, so you've entered a fair few demons, right? You've been on the scene, well, given the whole COVID weirdness, quite a while now, right?
Like, yeah, I think my first one was around 93, 92.
And did you do the continuous, or did you have the sabbatical?
No, I had the classic sabbatical. Did it as a kid in the 90s. Right. Stopped around 98, and I think started again in 2005.
But you entered as a youngster at Demon.
Yeah, I did 2 young bloods. And then that was in the days where it was plastic only. You know, you weren't allowed to do anything but a plastic model, and the plastic models were the worst.
Well, all like monopose or whatever, right?
Yeah. It's like, oh great, I'll paint a plastic model, great. And it was the year I was no longer I could no longer do young bloods. They went, oh, you can now do white metal.
Brilliant.
And I was like, oh.
Brilliant. As you just finished the single pose plastic beastman.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, nice. Oh, that's pretty cool. So when you came back into it, was display level painting the sort of way back in? Was that the focus of the hobby coming back in?
Yeah, completely. Coming back in, I just wanted to paint things, and I just wanted to do them purely for display. I didn't have any interest in the gaming side, so I started off just buying models I liked online, converting them up, painting those. I entered about 2 Golden Demons before I managed to get my first win in that period. And then again, that win was with Terminators, a squad of Terminators. So there is a Marine theme coming, and then I did another squad of Marines after that, and so I pretty much have just picked things that I liked and then tried to paint them to the best I could. I mean, if you look back on those entries now, I said we had to get all our models out for the Demon event, the last UK one. And it's crazy when you look back at stuff that's that old and you look at it and think, Jesus, that was awful in comparison to like standards now.
I think what's interesting is a lot of that's not that old. I think that's what gets me. You know, I look back at things that since we've all met, you know, it's been 10-ish years around that sort of mark, and you know, we've seen our group of friends win plenty of awards and this, that, and the other. But it is interesting to go back and look at people's work from even 5 years ago, and it's rapid, like it's proper rapid, evolution of it. So do you, when you say you just try to paint it to the best of your ability, are you picking particular things? I'm just trying to get in your head really of like what keeps driving you. Is it literally the winning? Is it the constant improvement? Is it what's the
weird thing is, I wouldn't say it's the winning, because I've certainly, you know, you enter a lot of Golden Demons and you're not going to win all of them, and you're going to lose a lot more than you win. And that's something you have to get to grips with fairly quickly, because I think people think, oh, you become like a top tier painter and you win every time you turn up. And I've entered the last two or three UK Demons, like the main fest ones, and have won with anything. So you have to get used to that. So if you're just painting to win, then you're going to get pretty upset. I paint because I do like the competing element, because it gives me a deadline to get something done to. Because if you give me unlimited time, I will literally produce nothing. I will work on one thing and maybe go off the boil and do something else. So it gives me a deadline to work to. But then also, it's that level of improvement that you see. So looking at this model, it's definitely the best model I've ever painted. But I'm hoping that the next one will be that little step up and that little bit better. And every model I look at in my sort of like back catalogue, I can see I've got steadily better with each one. And if they ever reach the point where I just went, I can't get any better, I don't think I'd want to carry on painting. Because it's that seeing improvements and seeing that, I've cracked that this time, or I've done that freehand better this time, or, that red looks a lot better this time, or I've managed to highlight the cloak better. Every little step you make, it just makes it more... it's that feeling of gratitude for yourself, thinking, I've really done a good job there. And if I ever thought, that looks the same as what I did last time, I think I'd lose the interest.
I think sorry, someone else go.
I was just going to say, it's one of the things we always said, that if you ever paint the perfect model, snap your brushes and walk away, like done.
Yeah.
I think from an observer of watching your whips and you WhatsApping us whips over the years, I think your losses made you more meticulous on this, because you did the I always forget what type of elder is. Not good, not bad, in the middle elder.
Middle elder, yeah.
Yeah, not a dark elder. I thought that was your best mini, and obviously you didn't get the win at GD with that at the time. And I think that when you came into this project, you must have thought, well, I've got to be more meticulous. And I remember seeing the details on the belt, and you just left no stone unturned on those tiny details just on the belt, like every part of that. I don't know what the little balls with holes in are called. What are they called? The things they
like these little incense things.
Yeah. I remember when you showed that, and I was like, bloody hell, he's gone for that. And that's just a tiny detail. And I think that's the progress, right? But I feel like
did
that
something-
loss you had made you step up because you knew you had
Oh,
to.
definitely. There's a detail on this one that I don't know if many people would even see or notice, but on the shoulder rims where you got the non-metallic metal, I've also shaded the inner part of the rim that then touches the actual shoulder pad itself. If you zoom right in, you might just see it. So there's like this flat face and then a really thin part down there that I've also done non-metallic on and edged as well, which was just, at the time I remember thinking, I don't think people are meant to paint these bits. But I've made sure that I covered every last bit, that there was no doubt that it had been done.
That's because you got the loss though, right? So you're like, no, you went for nothing unfinished, every single bit because of that.
Yeah, completely.
Well, I'm going to ask you two ones that we get asked quite often with regards to paintings. The first one being a time frame thing. So as opposed to, how long did this one take you and stuff, you said you like doing the competitions because it gives you these deadlines and so on. Would you say you have a sort of sweet spot for a piece? Like in your mind, is it like, are you someone, but speaking personally, you could give me a year to work on something and I probably won't start it until a week out type thing, and then I will burn out doing everything because that's how I like to work. But like, where do you sit in that sort of spectrum?
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at a project, so I'm already trying to think about like the next one, what I might do. Obviously, once I've got the idea set and what I want to do, I will generally go in and sort of try and time block everything out. So I'll be going, okay, I'm going to give myself that month to get it converted and sculpted, and then I'm going to do 3 weeks on the legs, and there will be a week on the torso, and I time box it all out and leave a fair chunk of extra spillover time. And I'm always sort of time checking myself. So I'll be painting away and thinking, okay, this week you must get these legs finished, and I'll do it. And then sometimes if I don't quite hit that mark, I sometimes might move on to something else and try and keep things moving so I don't get too bogged down in one particular area. Because I think sometimes you can go, well, I'll just keep working on these, on this and this until it's done. And then you suddenly see all the time vanishing out of your diary. So I try and time box everything, and then eventually I'll get to the stage where I might have to go back and finish a few bits off. But I find once I've moved on to something else, sometimes I'll come back and go, oh yeah, this bit's easy. I can do this now. And I'll quickly, whatever it might have been holding me up, maybe highlighting the green was being a bit problematic. I'll suddenly go, oh yeah, no, I've got this down now, and I'll just get that bit done and move on. And I'll time box it all. And then usually there is a mad sprint at the end, because usually there's always I've got a week left. I've still got a load to do. I need to pull some all-nighters. But thankfully, I didn't have to do that with this one. But yeah, if that has to happen, then I'll build in the time or find the time from where I can.
Nice. That's not an answer someone else has given either. That's very organised. I
think I'm pretty organised.
That's impressive.
It's that job in IT, mate.
I can hear Matt's approval.
Yeah,
Matt's going. Did you do it in the spreadsheet as well?
No, I don't have a spreadsheet there. That's my only downside.
So with regards to you were talking about the improvements and seeing the constant improvements, what's your approach there? Are you someone who will shut yourself away and you'll do loads of research, you'll read your books, look at other things as reference, that type of thing? Do you have a sort of mentor when it comes to painting like things, or are you more a group of peers that you'll chat to a lot and share ideas from? What's your motivation in that sense, but also what's your key to pushing on to that next thing? Is it a lot of self-reflection? Is it a lot more of external help? What's that like for you?
Yeah, for me, so this is my first Dark Angel I'd ever painted. I knew that I've read a lot of the heresy books and stuff, so I've got a good idea of what they're about. But what I'll generally do is mid sort of maybe converting it, I just do a load of research. So I'll be looking at as many pictures as I can find online, reference, looking up all the chapter symbols, looking up all the squad markings, make sure that there's whatever I would paint on there would be correct. Look at the bit of history, often like with these name characters as well, doing as much research on them as you can. So looking at what company Lazarus came from, making sure that he's got the right company markings, seeing if there's any distinct battles that he's fought in previously, any races he's fought. So, if he'd fought a particular, say he'd always fought the Elder, that I'd maybe put an Elder helmet somewhere on the base so that it ties in with his backstory, and just try and do as much research as I can. And then I'd hate to paint something and know that that I painted a symbol wrong, or oh no, he's not from that company, he's from that company. So I'm always very careful on those elements. But yeah, on the whole, it's just a lot of googling. Just I look on most of the like the wiki sites that sort of give you like a ton of information, and just scroll through and read all of that stuff.
And the actual physical putting the paint on the model side of things, sort of the same question really with that. Is it self-reflection, and then you know instantly when you finished it what you want to improve on, and you know how to get to that step? I say, or are you finding a mentor to help you sort of get to that next level, or is it WhatsApps and going to meets and talking to peers?
I think really for me, I mean, I had done quite a lot of classes in the past, especially on things that I feel like I was weak on, because I had a style that I knew I was pretty comfortable in, and I did join you guys on an airbrushing course.
Well, I still tell that story on most classes. I just had this thing where like you had Neil had won the Slayer sword like the week before, I think it was very, very recently before it. And he came on this tank painting class because you had an airbrush, right? You were like, I want to get better at airbrushing, so that's an area of weakness. And you were sat next to a youngish lad who literally was like, so yeah, what's this Warhammer thing? Then I want to have a go at it. And it was really fascinating.
Wow.
Like day one, both the pieces looked very similar because it was both sides. And then day two, it became fairly obvious, like one of you had a lot more experience than the other one. But it was one of those. And I didn't really know you at the time, but that was one of those ones where it was like, oh, I like Neil. Like, I like that attitude. Like, it's that never thinking you know everything type thing. It's go out there and just get all the info you can, right?
Yeah, I think you can definitely live in a bubble where you think, oh, well, I've won awards, I know everything. And what I've really realised over the losses, when you lose a lot of times, is that you do always need to improve and get better. And there are areas that, I mean, I've always had to learn back in the old days before the internet. It was trial and error. Try it, did it work? No, try something else. And then you realise that actually there's a wealth of knowledge out there and you just need to tap into it. So going on classes, looking at what people have done online, just keep asking questions and you'll get there. So again, went on one of your classes. I've been on a few other painting classes. I went on one with Rich Gray and just learning the skills that I didn't think I was very particularly strong in, So airbrushing, before I'd come to your class, I'd used it to sort of undercoat a tank, but used it like a bazooka. So it was just all on, all off. And that was literally the level of my skill. So, and I was like, well, this airbrushing just doesn't work for me. And it blocks up and I can't ever get it to work. And I remember you saying at the time, you're like, oh no, what you do is you put the thinner in first and then you put the paint in because it stops it from clogging. And it was just that moment. I went, oh my God, of course the paintbrush gets clogged because I just put paint in it. And then I try and thin it. And of course, it was these little nuggets of gold that you learn. And you just go, right, yeah, that's why you do it that way. And just improving those skills through learning from other people is the way to do it. If you wanted to try and learn that organically, you'd be there forever. And
you've run a few classes or meets, haven't you, at Bad Moon? Please don't sound getting you confused. Yeah, I thought you had.
No, that I did a few. I originally did some just sort of hangout meets where it'd be a case of turn up, I'd be there, and we'd all sort of paint, and I could give some advice on people's painting, and then we also run some classes there. And this was the pre-Adepticon, the one that got cancelled, the COVID Adepticon. Because I was going to run some classes at Adepticon, but then obviously that all got cancelled. So I've done a little bit of teaching, but I have noticed that I found that teaching is really difficult, and it's not one of my skills. So I'm edging away from that now because there are people that can teach and there are people that can learn, and I can learn, but I can't teach. So I've just decided that I'll leave that to the people that can do it, and I'll just concentrate on painting models.
Hang out and paint's sort of fun though.
They are.
Yeah. They're, I think it's nice, especially if you're in a local area and you maybe just want to paint. I mean, gamers, it's great. For gamers are fine because gamers can go, I'm going to go to that gaming cafe. I'm going to go there and I can talk to some random person and we'll throw some dice. They don't need to know them. They can just turn up. Whereas painting, if you just turn up with some brushes and paint and go, I want to make some painting friends, it doesn't really work because everyone's in their hobby holes painting. They're not going out to go, I'm going to find some painting friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very true.
That was painting friends. Oh. But no, I mean, it's. I think you're probably going to be garnering a lot of new fans, Neil, because this is all absolutely gold. I think it's a great attitude to all of it. For what's worth. Now, chaps, have you got anything you wanted to ask Neil particularly about this piece?
How did you stay motivated? You painted it for 2 and a bit years.
I don't know. For me, I'm quite a determined person, and I just literally won't stop till it's dead. I keep going and going and going until it's done. And I always try to set those targets. So if I get a little bit done, I get that little reward of, I did that bit, got that bit done this week. And I just keep trying to build on that momentum and not let it stop. But it is, I know what you mean. Sometimes it's hard to keep focused on one thing, but I'm just so single-minded sometimes. I don't think of anything else.
Wish I was like that.
Yeah, I was just laughing at Rich when you said like, "Oh, he's focused." I'm like, just
end of the day,
focus on one thing.
You both paint lovely-looking Space Marines, so it's fine.
A bit of a very different skill gap between the two.
Don't worry about that.
I've not got a question, but I know the story, but you have to say the story of the backpacks, Neil, because I think that shows what it takes for Demon. I thought it was interesting, and I think everyone else will find it interesting too. Yeah,
so the backpack was a funny one. So that is the third backpack for Lazarus. So I bought the original kit, and I had a tip from Max, the heavy metal painter, and he always told me, if you're going to paint a model, buy 2, because you can have one built in front of you and one in part sub-assembly. Then when you're painting it, you can go, well, how does that arm sit? You can look at the reference and go, oh, okay, and that's where I need to put highlights. So I bought 2 of them, and I decided I'd paint the backpack, and I suddenly was looking at it, and I looked at the gold on the top, and it had this really rough texture to it. And I couldn't work out how I'd done it. I thought, oh, maybe I've undercoated it badly. So I thought, okay, well, I'll strip that bit. That didn't work. I stripped the whole backpack. Then when I looked at it, I noticed there was a really light texture on the plastic itself. And I thought, oh, okay, well, it wasn't me. It was the plastic. I'll use the other backpack. So I pulled the other backpack off the guy. As I'm doing that, I dropped that backpack, and it managed to go point down into the floor and take the whole of the top of the point off the backpack. And I thought, I'll try and green stuff it. No, that didn't work. So then I bought a third Lazarus, and then got that backpack, and then painted that one up. So that was like the third iteration of the backpack as it happened. But at that point, I think it was fairly near the end of, or near to the Golden Demon UK, and I remember just thinking, I don't care, just buy another one, get it done. Don't let a chipped top bit or a rough texture bother you. If there's something wrong with it, you just got to change it and fix it.
Yeah, no compromise, right?
Yeah, completely.
That's wonderful.
I was just going to say, when obviously you had the bit of the drama at UK where it got moved from 40k single to Dio, was there any question in your mind to make the base smaller for Adepticon specifically right there and then, or did you mull it over a bit?
Oh, I definitely gave it a lot of thought, because in my mind I was thinking, do I just put it in open? Do I make it into a diorama? I looked at lots of options, but I always felt that he was a 40k single piece, so I didn't want to do that. And that's what I wanted to enter him into. So I felt as though that was the way I wanted to go, and I would just rework the base. And because it was 3D printed, it was fairly simple to do.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel as though, okay, I've got to remake the whole thing. It's going to take ages. It was literally go into CAD, chop,
less
STL, send to printer. Right, let's get a new one and start again. So it was an easy thing to do, but it was a bit of a decision to make at the time. It was quite tricky.
Nice.
Lovely. Chatter thoroughly enjoying this, which is excellent. So before we move on to have a little chat about some of the other entries that sort of caught our eye and stuff, There was one thing you guys wanted to talk about the show itself. So Andy and Neil obviously were over there. Myself, Matt, and Rich did not make it over for this one. Rather than a sort of blow by blow of the actual event itself, there was something you wanted to chat about specifically.
What's that?
Damages is what I've got written down.
Oh, yeah. I'll take it away. Yeah, I think there was a few breakages of people's models, and a lot of people have been quite upset about it, and rightly so. And yeah, I think really what needs to happen is maybe they need to have a bit of a procedure in place and go, if someone's model's broken, they need to be contacted straight away and have a little area that they can fix it. And I think, it's going to happen, and you sign that form, and it's basically, if your model breaks, it's just going to happen, especially with all these fragile bits and bobs. But I think all they need to do is really just try and go, right, get the contact details, give them a phone, because, they're going to be hanging around the show. And if there's a little area that they can just sit and fix it, then it'll make the people entering a lot happier. And, it sounds like, it's a bit of a pain in the arse, but when you've spent 100, 200, 300 hours on a mini and it gets broken on the day, it's the most devastating thing. And from the outside, you're like, oh, it's just broken. You can fix that. But when it's yours and you know what you've put into it, and it's like, oh, I was thinking that on the plane because mine's quite fragile and it was shaking around in the plane. I was like, just get to the show. All right. It doesn't matter if it breaks on the way home, but just survive for the show, please. Because if mine broke, I can't fix it. Any break is just not perfect enough. But yeah, I just think maybe that's a little procedure they need to think and have in place. Because I know 4 pieces that broke quite badly as well, snapped off models, and I think it's not great for that person to have their piece with a snapped model on the glass of the cabinet. It's just a horrible, horrible feeling. So hopefully they can put a little procedure in place. Gotcha.
Fair enough. James has just asked in the chat, and I meant to ask this one earlier, especially Neil giving away when you were first in the hobby, the original base for this lad, the chapel and everything. Was there inspiration from the Mike McVeigh Azrael piece?
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, that. I remember seeing that piece and thinking. Everyone's seen that piece, but I remember thinking that is an amazing, amazing dio. And I remember just trying to make it as much as like that as possible. But obviously, I couldn't remake that dio into a smaller area. So it was very much taking that he's in the rock, he's in a churchy, chapely environment, and having that stained glass window behind to try and emphasise that was the core idea.
Nice, love it. Right, so before we move on to the other bits, there was one thing I want to bring up. So we talk, a lot of us have met through the paint competitions. So we've known each other now for about maybe 10 years or so, almost going on. Seeing each other grow and win all these things is wonderful. And we've got a new wave of winners and painters and things coming through, and it's evolving, and the UK scene's getting stronger and stronger. But we have a situation now where we have 3 of you on 2 Slayer swords. We've got Andy, we've got Neil, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Rich has. Sorry, not our Rich. As many demons as he's got.
Why are you doing me like that, man?
I know. I'm sorry, babe. I'm sorry. Your lime marines are incredible. Rich Gray's got 2 as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this gets spicy now, doesn't it?
First to 3?
First to 3, right? This is proper bragging rights now, because you're going to have the slightly older guard. Obviously, I'm sure Dave Soper's got another 10 in him.
Easily.
Sort of thing. But I love watching the scene from a distance, as it were. I like the fact that there's a strong UK painting scene going on. I always admired the Spaniards and the French, in that period in the noughties where they were winning everything, and it was that almost school of miniature art was this. I'd love that for the Brits. And you'd have to say that you 3 are now out at the front of that new wave, as it were. So who's getting the 3rd first?
I'm going to work pretty hard. That's all I'm going to say.
And you know, I've got some really good ideas for the next Adepticon. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one. That.
Well, you've had a year extra to work on it as well, right? You only had to paint a base. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
you know, that's.
Have
But
you got
to that end, have you spent that last year working on some other pieces we haven't seen yet?
No, I've literally shot my load. I'm the husk of a man. I have nothing left.
It's tweak. Love it. Paid off though, bud. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And actually, talking about things paying off and all the rest of it, just wanted to shout out to our buddy James Tarot, who took home a couple of demons as well recently. I know he's worked his arse off as well. I think this one's, just knowing the three of you, and obviously Andy, well, it's been quite interesting to see the payoff for the work that's gone in, which sometimes you don't always see, but there's definitely been a feel of taking it very, very seriously, which I think is quite exciting, right? I think it gives it all a bit more weight as well, doesn't it? Gives it a bit more gravitas, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, big congrats to James. And I assume everything was on his plinths as well, right? Like
A lot.
The real thing.
Yeah. Good, as it should be. Right, let's have a look at some other of the cool miniatures. We just picked a handful of our faves, didn't we?
This one.
First up,
Who's this
got
guy?
that, hey, in his purple
Self-portrait
pajamas.
2023.
Hey.
That's me after coming back from the States. Eh?
I was just going to say, I posed for this for Andy personally.
Yeah.
Go on then, Mandy. This is yours. This is a model you've worked incredibly hard on. We're obviously very proud of you, very chuffed for you, but you must be pleased with this.
Yeah, I feel most positive about painting. I don't know. Yeah, maybe ever. And I feel like on a bit of a roll because I'll try and keep this story short. But I was very, very unhappy with Techless. I tried hard to do something new and different, and I learned a lot from it. But the end result wasn't what I wanted. But I did learn a lot and was experimental. I think that's important. Shows that I was pushing. But anyway, I was really, really unhappy with Techless. And then the last two minis I've finished have been Elrond and this. And you know when you're in your own bubble and you don't know where you're at. And I think that's for anyone at any level. You're like, is this good? I don't know. But I was like, I think these two are maybe not my best minis, but I felt like they were progress and definitely a lot better. And I think the payoff and the clarification was really important to me, that I'm on the right sort of track. And yeah, so my latest two minis, and they've probably been the most successful I've been in the GD. And I think I noticed slightly more compliments in general from people, just a few more comments, a few more people enjoying them. And that's just really nice. So I've ended this show with a lot of confidence, and I definitely could have spent a lot more time on this piece, but I'm really happy with what I did in the time. So I did it in 6 weeks, which for me seems pretty crazy, and it was so intense. But I did everything I wanted to do on it. It could have been a bit more polished if I'd spent more weeks on it. But now I'm coming into it, and I really enjoyed those two projects. And sometimes you can go, oh, that wasn't worth it. But all I've felt since the ceremony was that was worth it. It was so fun. The weekend was great. I loved the minis, which is the most important thing. You like the minis. But I was the most proud I've been of these two pieces. And what I want to do next is just keep reinforcing that and spend a lot longer. And I think I'm not saying I'm going to start my entry now, because I'm not. But I did this 6 weeks out. I'm just going to start earlier, 6 months out, and then see what I can achieve. But I need to come up with an idea, basically. I think that's it.
No, fair. And I mean, the nice thing as well with this and your Elrond is you've documented the whole process over on Patreon, which is pretty cool. I think it's been really nice to be able to follow along a bit with you, not just the blow, you know, paint on the model side of it, but also hearing thoughts about someone, you know, wanting to really elevate their display painting and stuff. It's been really fun, because obviously, yeah, Elrond, although he's painted a little while ago now, I think this was his first comp, wasn't it? This was, yeah.
Well, I didn't finish it that long ago, because I started it.
Oh, you had a big break, didn't you? Yeah.
I took a break on it, but then I finished Elrond like 7 weeks ago, and then went straight into this project. But it feels different to do like 2 good ones in a row, especially after in my mind having a failure essentially with Techless, and then come back with those. And also, it's a big worry doing Golden Demon now that we do videos every week, and I'm always like, am I still going to be able to compete in this? And I think a lot of people who do YouTube say this, I can't do Golden Demon anymore, and I've sort of proved that I can, but you've just got to plan it differently, because you can't indulge yourself on one miniature every 2 years. Like you can't. So is it still possible to do a miniature of high level with the time frame? And this one was too tight, and it would have benefited with a lot more time for sure, but I just wanted to do it. It was very much, this is my idea now. I don't want it for any other thing. I'm flying all the way to Adepticon, so I don't want to go like with just one piece or whatever. So I want to carry on with that momentum and just spend more time on the next piece, and it will be less stressful. And also something without so much gold and stone, because that's absolutely shit.
2 worst things to try and get done on a big model.
Yeah, man. There's a week on the stone and a week on gold. Just every day getting up, going, sweet, more gold. It's just crap. So clever.
Have you got the shot from behind, Matt? Oh, so the voice is going. We're not okay. Well, go and find some more shots of this on Andy's Instagram, because there's the best bits on the back. So
I love the tentacle, the octopus arm.
Octopus tentacle. Yeah. It's a lovely minute. It's lovely to see it out of its main miniature context as well. You know, there's a ton of cool bits on that enormous, elaborate miniature of his anyway. But I think it's lovely to make him the main focus of it, right? And a lot of it came, you were saying, from having that fills a plinth. That's a nice, like, that makes sense to you, right, as a piece.
Yeah, I mean I didn't do anything. I just cut it out. I had to do a lot of sculpting to complete it, because the wheel slide. Did do a lot of sculpting, but the composition was there, and I remember thinking, wonder if that is a single mini, and building it, and just there's like little spiky bits that go around the side, and when you look from a bird's eye view, it just sits over the plinth so nicely, and it's just, yeah, it's this tight little thing, and it's kind of crazy really with all this stuff around it. So it's a fair bit of work to make it, you know, be like that, but the composition is just there for you. And all I did was add the horns from another kit, which for me is really important. I think it's really it's a little boring without it, but just that simple horn at the back to kind of frame it, and I was like, yeah, this is really cool. So yeah, just the idea really, I think, is what I'm happiest with, and got to find these little gems hidden in the kit sometimes.
Well, that's it, right? And it's interesting. You look at Neil's piece, which is, as we said, out of the box with a little tweak to just really sharpen it up, to reaching into a very busy miniature to pull out quite a tight focus of it. I mean, it's got to be one of the most like elaborate miniatures they do, in the sense of stuff
going on.
Yeah. You know,
there's no focal. It's hard to get a focal point out of those minis, and I think that's what you lose. And you know, there's a big canopy which shields him from the sun, so he doesn't get a tan or whatever. But then it stops you from getting any focus, and that kind of classic trope of, you know, I think actually the things I love in miniatures is like the holding in helmet pose, like Neil's. That's epic. The sat in the throne pose. They're just brilliant, and they're meant for having like dramatic lighting hit them, and just that like traditional art, photo, whatever kind of pose, you know, the throne, the thing. So yeah, I love those kind of dramatic poses, and I'm definitely going to bring someone else sat down to the next GD. That's going to be my thing. Only people that sit down.
I was going to say, is that going to become your signature thing now?
Yeah, I've got 2 plans, so we'll do 3 years in a row at least.
Like
people
it.
Sat down.
Like it. Right, what's up next, Matt?
So before we go into all the faves, I just figured people would want to see a breakdown.
Oh, here we go. Stats. Come on then, take it away.
So yeah, 13 brand new winners. That's cool. And
absolutely.
Yeah, 1 brand new winner, 2 demons.
Nice one.
So
Piotr, congratulations. And what's that spread like on the countries?
It's actually not too bad for like considering how expensive it is to get over to America. But yeah, I don't know a few nationalities, so it could be different. But yeah, it's a fun little thing.
But it is really nice to see people going. I mean, and we are making an assumption that the majority of those people are going over to it as opposed to live over there and just happen to be from these other countries. But it is good to see people willing to travel to it, right? You know, if it wants to be considered, you know, the first big show of the season type thing, you know, and hopefully what it shows GW as well is that the competitors are willing to take it seriously, and therefore they should.
Yes, please.
As you know, the new banners and everything are lovely, but you know, as a few people have said, that company's doing very well, and Golden Demon is a massive integral part of it, and I still think it deserves an awful lot more resource thrown at it and celebration thrown at it. So hopefully we'll see it continuing to move in that direction. But pleasing, Team UK bringing nearly 20% of the demons back. Not bad.
Not bad. I do think it's good as well that if you do get a lot of foreign painters travel over, ultimately that'll be better for the US painters as well, because they see a standard that they can aim towards and they can aspire and get better. Because that's what happened with the UK demon. It was so fiercely competitive that you had to up your game if you were going to win.
Because
I think that's where we all
was
come from.
European. It was GD Europe, wasn't it? Really? Yeah. Given the
French
geography
and
of it. We spoke about this.
Everything.
Yeah, on a previous episode. I think that was last year's USGD, actually talking about it coming back, but just saying how it would be, just as you said, Neil, really brilliant for the US painters to get that exposure, not only of their own stuff to others, but be exposed to others, because it's, you know, it's a long flipping way to travel for a painting competition. You know, so and there, you know, it's the only one over there or of this magnitude. You know, so it's very cool, and obviously congrats to the homegrown guys and girls that took it home as well. We've got a circuit point. We're going to wasn't living. Birthplace or current living location. Now we can't go into that, Christian. That's too deep a stats. We're just going to make sweeping assumptions.
Yes, sweeping assumptions like only the Brits can.
Facts. All right, and that's the way it's going. Right, let's look at some pretty pictures.
I love this.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, why do you love it, Matt?
It's just it's a grot on a big bike with QQ.
It's a grot, full stop.
Yeah. What more do you want? No, he sculpted it all himself. I was chatting to him the other week, and he showed me basically all of the iterations he's done over the last 10 years of trying to make this model, as like 3D printing's got better and his sculpting skills have got better. And yeah, we were chatting, I think Thursday evening, and he sculpted the gun flares that night, and he says, "Does this work?" And I was like, "Yeah, do that."
Is it meant to look like a squig? Like it's a
yeah.
squig. It's a squig hopper, right? Like
yeah.
It's a terrifying mechanical thing.
It's based on a piece of Gibbons artwork, sort of around that, and yeah, G-dubs need to make this. I want it.
Make it a thing.
It's very cool.
It's got some
very,
classy. Go on, Rich.
I was going to say it's got very Death Squadron vibes. Do you remember that comic book?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's mega. I like the base too. I always love when you see bits of the plinth left untouched. Does that make sense on the top? And then it turns into that. I don't know what it is about it. It's always really, really like that look. Taro, you magnificent beast. Yeah, I know. There we go.
He's got some cool things on the back, like a NOS bottle, which is on his. I think he's got some photos up of it, and it's really cool little tiny things.
I think that's what made it win.
Tiny, right? It is what that.
Yeah, it's not big.
Because
it's very small,
teeny tiny. That's super cool. That it stands up as well so well to get blown up that size.
Yeah, definitely not too big and get moved into Dio.
I mean, who'd have thought, Neil, basing a miniature in a cathedral might be too big.
I mean, they do say appropriate size basing.
I know, it's this wishy-washy terminology, isn't it? That's the problem. It was remember the day they were like on Duel when it no longer had to be on the X size base. That was it, wasn't it? That was when we ended up seeing 4.5 meter wide Duels and all the rest of it.
I think there was what diorama with 3 Thunderhawks, wasn't there, Neil?
Beautiful.
Yeah. When it's too big, where they can't get it anywhere near the cabinet.
I didn't even see it.
Who was the person 2018 or 2017 or something? They brought down the castle. Yeah.
The Empire. Yeah. The Empire thing that just incredible. Yeah. Love it. I'm glad there's a category for the silly stuff though, which actually we'll probably come on to a bit. We've probably got a few picks from Open, haven't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, lovely.
So happy for Taro winning. It was just, I think he said he had some tears.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, he was proper crying. Yeah.
But this is what I was saying earlier. It's it's quite hard to. I think if you've never done it, it's quite hard to understand how much energy, how weird it almost is to put that much energy and mental energy as well into one piece.
It's an emotional release.
Which, whether you like it or not, you are putting forward to be judged, to be told this is good, this is not as good as other things, right? It's tough.
It's pass fail. It is very, very pass fail.
It's like fair play. And I think that on top of a load of bullshit with his flights as well. I don't think it was but a lovely ending. Do you guys have any thoughts on muzzle flash effects?
I do, yes.
Go for it.
Well, I was going to say anyway, but I think one of the really important things on this is that it's got lots of classy examples of where effects can overtake and make things cheesy. Because there's actually quite a lot of OSL under the muzzle flash, but it's done well. It's not sprayed the whole thing fluorescent orange with an airbrush. There's subtly more yellow on the white part. You can just see on the silver dags there's some orange on the tyre. And he's got things like bullets flying out the side, the ammo. There is the muzzle flash. There's exhaust fumes. And these are things that can be done so cheesy and kind of just be like, a bit of a turn off for me. And I think this is a really good example of how to do it. And I think it's all these little things that made it win, because you've got that excellently done muzzle flash, classy OSL from it. There's more OSL coming from the back rockets. All these tiny details, they just stack up. And I think, it's probably unusual to see something like a Grot win in single figure, not like a big marine, something huge, but you'd look at this piece and there's loads and loads of detail. And it's the same reason why Neil won the Slayer sword, as it's meticulous. And that's what they look for. And I think a lot of people online go, why did that win? But when you hold it and you see every little teeny bit is considered, then that's what pushes it to win.
Are there any stats for how many Grots have won Golden Demon threat?
Oh, no.
Can we have a spreadsheet on that?
Well, I mean, the last UKGD, a Grot won 40k and fantasy, right?
Did it?
Didn't it?
Albert.
What weren't Albert's Grots?
Oh,
yeah.
But then again, it's Albert, isn't it?
It's Grots, mate. I'm telling you, it's time for the revolution.
He's doing a proper model this time.
a lovely piece. I think as well with the effects, it's something as an aesthetic we've seen become the norm in Warhammer models now for the last. But funnily enough, I think it started with a Dark Angels model, didn't it? We had that chaplain with some smoke on his backpack in one of the starter boxes. And then ever since then, it's sort of gone on more and more smoke and effects and modelled effects. I don't believe we've seen muzzle flash and things like that from them. But you'd have to imagine it's been considered, right? Because it's just a different aesthetic, but it's part of the aesthetic, isn't it?
I think it makes it really.
Yeah, I think it does, but I think it also really depends on your subject matter as well. So if you were to take a really serious-looking Space Marine shooting a bolt pistol, don't know whether the muzzle flash would actually work as well on that. Mm-hmm. Whereas orcs, they kind of always have had that non-serious element to them, which is part of their charm, I think. And I think with this, like, I couldn't imagine muzzle flash and like flame coming out the back of a Contemptor Dreadnought. I just don't think it would work. But I think because it fits the subject matter, I think it does really well.
That's the humour.
Yeah,
it's fun and dynamic, though, right? It's really dynamic. It looks like it's zooming along. It's got a fun face in the white armor. It's like a little face. And if someone said to me, "Oh, I'm going to do like a bike that looks like it's got a face on the front,"
it's a squig. I'm telling you, it's a squig.
Muzzle flash, firing rockets, bullets flying everywhere. I'd be like, "Yeah, that sounds great." All the gimmicks, but he's pulled it off and made it cool. So I think that's a big lesson for a lot of people. Put your airbrush away when you do OSL.
If he put some resin water on the base, he might have got a silver.
No, it should have been underwater, Neil. Underwater.
Right, let's keep it moving. Matt, what we got up next? Open competitions. This was talking about enormous things. It felt like, from all the photos I've been seeing on social media and people have been throwing around, felt like there was a lot of large scale models there this year.
It's great, isn't it?
It's which is really, really cool to see, right? Now they automatically go into open, is that right?
Correct. And it's actually got moved.
An open category is never considered for swords either, is it? Right. So it's a very much a
not anymore. No.
Right. So this got moved from what?
So Sergio put it in diorama, I think, not knowing all the ins and outs of the rules, and a lot of people were blowing their minds, going, "It's got to be moved!" But the staff had it covered, guys. Oh, we loved it. We loved it.
We were laughing our heads off, and it was so funny because you hear everyone at the point of the cabinets, "It's got to move! It's got to move!" Then when we saw the judges having a conversation, we thought, "Yeah, it's going to be moved." But just watching the drama was brilliant.
But yeah, it got moved to the open category. I think the most important thing with, like you said, there's more large scale stuff, is that is accessible to people now. And I was chatting with someone about it, because back in the day of even like the crystal brush stuff, it was kind of like, well, you can only win if you're mates with Joaquin, and no one could get a sculpt and no one could compete. But actually now you can commission whatever. And that's really nice, because this is Alan Carrasco, who's one of the best sculptors in the world. I think he does the best orcs ever made. And, you just can't really get him. But you can get some other fantastic artists, so you can go up against people like Sergio and stuff like that. But even, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, it was only those sort of top people that were in there with the sculptors that were able to do this. So it was really nice to see a ton of people either sculpted themselves, commissioned, and there's a place for that as well. Then they're allowed, basically.
I think it's really, really interesting to see something that's painted in this style do not only win something, but to win gold as well. We've spoken a bit about in the past how historically with demons there was a very distinct, you will paint it in this style if you want it to do well. If you want to be successful, it has to adhere to a certain set of guidelines, and we found that out just by entering. If you entered something that was looser and a bit rough in the past, it wouldn't do as well because it wasn't as neat. It was literally sometimes what's the neatest thing that you can paint. Whereas I think with this, I think it's really interesting to see something painted looser, but it's still brilliantly painted, but it is loose comparative to, for instance, like some of the thing that Neil painted. There, it's on a different level of neatness, because it's not, but it's still valid, and it's still picked, I think, as a really interesting kind of change of tactic with the judging, which might be just because it was in America. That might be something that they adopt now a bit more in the UK, I think. But it's I think it's really interesting that they've changed it a bit and put it in gold.
But cool as well, like Andy was saying, that there is a place for it with open. Like it sort of gives open an identity as well. Right, it's not just the category the heavy metal painters enter. You know, it's not just the category for 3 Thunderhawks and a 7-foot tall castle.
But it's not. I don't think it just has to be open either, because it was it Maxime's Troll that won? That wasn't neat like it would have been normal, like you would normally expect.
It was a lot more refined than this, though, and I think, to be honest, if this was allowed to win the sword, it still wouldn't. And I think they'll still award things that are a bit looser like this. But when it comes down to the Slayer sword, I think interestingly, this Neil, congrats, got the silver in open for his Dark Elder. I'll get it right one day. Yunari, whatever they're called, made up words.
Middle Elder.
But
the Emo Elder.
I think that Neil wouldn't mind me saying that this beat that because it got a silver to it, but I don't think that it would beat the Dark Angel. I think if this was allowed to win the sword, I still think the Dark Angel's pristine, super neat throughout would still get the sword, I think.
Because Sergio did win in Jewel as well. He got gold in Jewel as well, didn't he? So his style was very much through that piece as well. So I think there's definite, I think they still definitely look for a neater finish for the sort of, if they're really looking for what they like. But we sort of know that what the competition's like. So
yeah,
they they're more, for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they accept more now of different styles than they used to. I think it used to be very sort of like, this is what we want you to paint, black and white. But then now it's a bit more sort of like, we appreciate the other styles, but maybe they still edge towards a neater, tidier paint job.
I think the weighting should be different in different categories, and I think Sergio won the gold in the duel, but I'm not sure if he could win a gold in single figure 40k. And I think that probably when it gets on the single figures, they're naturally tighter anyway, because the sort of people that paint.
He had a single in 40k as well. We had the Nurgle guy, the Typhus.
Typhus, that's right. Yeah.
He had in that. And again, his style in that, because obviously it's a smaller scale, it probably shows up more. I think his style works very well in bigger pieces because he's got a bigger canvas to work with. So that if you are a bit messier, it doesn't matter because you're seeing on a bigger scale and it looks fantastic. You shrink that down to a single mini and then it just looks a bit rougher.
But it's very nice that it's great that this is winning, and it's great that you don't have to be a pro to bet a big piece. And I think Henry hit the nail on the head. That open is getting an identity now, and I think that's just super cool. I think it's really important to open people's eyes, and it's also kind of like, oh hey, if you want to see more of this, you do the other shows, because that's SMC and Monty is 2,000 models like this. Yeah. So if you're into that,
absolutely. Right, what's up next, Matt? But I'm only saying that because actually there's a tangent I want to go off, but I've just seen the time, so I'm not going to. So go on to something else. Speaking of big things,
I love this so much.
Marines. This is so cool.
What do you love so much about it then?
Do you want to go for it, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so first off, I think we need to say that Eric's got to be the fastest painter in the world. For the caliber that you painted. Well, how many days was this? He painted this
6.
Something like 6 days. I mean, if we could all paint that quick, we'd have 100 entries every year. But the obviously the sculpt is amazing, which obviously Eric didn't do. He got that done. But for me, the colours are so bright. So I like bright colours when you paint in a competition because it makes it jump out at you. And the way that he paints all the foreshadows, when you see them in the cabinet, you think, oh, the light's doing that. and then you move your head and you go, oh no, it's not the light. They're painted. And it's just an amazing piece to look at in real life. I mean, the pictures look great, but when you see it in real life, it's 10 times better.
I think I love just how easy it is to read, and I think it's got all those things we like about the 2D art. And this is based on one, and you can see where the shadows are in that. They're the same in here, and it's just enjoyable to look at. It's clean and clear. The shadows are absolutely wonderful, especially like on the tabard where you get a shadow even from the little chain. And it's just what we want in the open category. So, and it's so nice to see Marines, because you can't like cast shadows on a 28mm. You can do it, but it doesn't have this oomph and impact. And I just think it's really important to have as part of the show. And I love Eric's style, and I can't help but admire his sort of time frame. He just gets it done, gets the impact, and it looks fantastic. And I'd love this on the shelf. Imagine having these on your shelf.
Yeah. It's a giant thick boy Marine. What's not to like about it?
You'd have an army. You'd have a kill team like this if you could.
I would literally, yeah.
150mm kill team.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, lovely. It's fab. It's fab. And again, really lovely to see different styles being celebrated and awarded. Open. Have we got a couple more, Matt?
Got one more.
One more. Oh, yeah, and we just wanted to bring up Youngbloods as well. You guys obviously saw all the entries.
This
out
is mental.
But it really struck me, like just seeing the top three for Youngbloods, like the standards outrageous. Like, what, and I mean it. I don't mean this disrespectfully, but like what these kids are producing, is remarkable.
It's like
how old are you?
I think that's where the
14.
Fucking hell.
It's like when
this is where the American talent will come from in a few years. Like,
right.
Give it 4 or 5 years, and these will be the people, smashing the Europeans out of the American.
Can you imagine painting this at 14?
My first
I thought my man Ad was incredible because he finished a model. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's incredible.
I think I heard a story that the parent of this lad was sort of around the cabinets, and adults are like, I can't believe a kid's doing this. This is amazing. And they're sort of, I think they're understanding, so are they good for their age then? And it's like, yeah, this is really good. So that was a really nice story that I heard that kind of is fantastic. But the other important thing is the volume of entries was...
Yes, that was sort of why I wanted to really, really bring it up.
The standard and volume is so important, because there was only 2 last year. And I really think that last GD in US was a success. And I think the total volume was slightly down. I think it was about 500, over 500 to 600 this time, Matt. But anyway, I feel like it's definitely growing, and that's shown in the Youngbloods and stuff like that. So it's really nice to see.
I think that's a really interesting topic, actually, of the age, because if you think about it, we started entering Golden Demon 8-9 years ago, something like that, and it's still the kind of same crowd that have been doing it for those 8-9 years. There aren't loads of new faces that have all suddenly turned up and started winning Golden Demons on a prolific level. There's a few, but I don't think there's that many. So there is that. And when there was just the 2 Youngbloods at the last one, it did kind of put that whole, who's going to continue this going forward, as we are all kind of getting on a bit at an aging painting community. So it is interesting to see what I think will happen with it in the next 10, not like in the next couple of years, like 10, 15 years from now.
But I think it's fascinating as well is that these youngsters that are coming through, I think one of the reasons it will be so exciting to see what they come up with is the access they have now to not only inspiration, but in-person shows, the internet, tutorials, one-to-one tuition, all this. It's never existed before. It's the same as we saw 10 years ago or whatever, or fewer than that when we started to see 3D printing coming into entries and people doing one-off sculpts, and that has gone from just being, as Andy said earlier, from a select handful of people that grew up together and do each other's pieces, to now there are a lot of very talented sculptors out there that you can access and you can get your piece created and you can do unique pieces.
Yeah.
That's going to change the landscape, just as you're going to get these painters now that, should they choose to commit themselves at a young age, can just have a vast wealth of knowledge by the time they hit 20 or whatever, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden now they can spend the next 20, 25 years after that simply focusing on the individual creative side of it, because from a sort of skills foundation they'll already be there.
Someone said in the chat, someone's in the chat like a few years ago, the Silver Slayer sword. I don't necessarily know whether that's true, but if you think about the quality, when Neil mentioned earlier, when we did the last GD and there was that big display of all the older pieces, the older pieces do still hold that child wonderment awe, like, oh my god, that's amazing, and seeing them in their flesh is amazing. But being brutally honest, the quality, like the technical skill of things that's like 15 years old now comparative to now, it's not even in the same ballpark. So what that's going to be like going forward is going to be insane. Like, it's that thing, is like, is there a limit? Like, what's the best thing you can paint? What's the best right? You can paint something? Yeah, it
is very, very exciting times.
AI will win it also.
AI will win. There we go.
While talking about that.
No, don't start with that.
Did we have any more?
No, that was it.
Is that the one? Lovely. That's a fantastic one to close out on. So, just before we take a look at a bit of the Paint Cultist stuff, was there anything you guys just wanted to sound off on Adepticon and, well, the GD itself? Anything?
Got another one in 5 weeks, haven't we?
We do, which I think we're all going to be at, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Can't wait.
For me, the GD in the US was brilliant, only for the sheer fact that there was no sort of little groups of people that wouldn't speak. Like in the UK GD, sometimes you get the little Spanish are here and the Italians are there and the English are all in one corner. Where the US one, it's like everyone speaks to everyone, and everyone. We played cornhole, and it was like Europe versus the USA, and it was just immense to have everyone partaking in like group activities rather than, oh look, they're over there, oh look what they've entered. It was just a big happy group. It was wonderful.
Cornhole was the highlight, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, especially when you lost the championship for us, mate.
Oh dear.
I scored too many points.
Oh dear. Curse those talented hands, mate. Never mind.
It were.
But yeah, I think you touched on it much earlier, Neil. I think a lot of that's coming from the fact that, as painters, we're only tip of the iceberg with this whole thing that gamers have been enjoying for a long time. This fact that you can just go and spend a weekend and hang out and just have fun when it comes to painting and meeting your peers and things like that. So yeah, and lots more to come, hopefully. Right, so we'll close out the show as normal. Even though we didn't do our picks at the start, I thought we'd just do a handful of little Paint Cultist bits at the end. It's a hashtag you've got over on Instagram. It's on our Discord as well. There's a dedicated section to it as well if you're not an Instagram fan. 21,000 now tags on there. So if you want to expose yourself to different miniatures, different painting styles, just things that aren't constantly coming up in your feed, it's a lovely little hashtag to follow. And all I do is grab a handful of them each episode and just show them off to the guys and try and remember why I picked them. Other than they were cool or a creature. So what's up? I can't remember. There's just a handful we've done on this one. So here's a lovely lovely orc.
I've messed up.
I was going to say that's a different. That's Will Paints. That's right.
Sorry, Will.
This will keep Matt awake tonight, so don't worry. We'll put the description, the correct link, the stuff in the script. But yeah, this is Will Paints over on Insta, and this is from Squidmar's recent Kickstarter, I believe.
Correct.
Big reason I'm picking this one is I love seeing orcs painted not with green skin. It just instantly makes them interesting. I love them green.
And not sculpted by GW helps as well.
That I'll disagree with you on. Like, I think GW, particularly Brian Nelson, I think sculpts some of the coolest orcs there's ever been. But yeah, it is wicked seeing different takes on them.
Will sent this picture to me a couple of days ago, and he said, like, was just like asking what I think, and I said, I'm glad you didn't do it green. Like, it looks so much better not green.
And really cool as well, the skin. Like, not just that it isn't green. Like, it's just really cool. It's really, really nice. And what's scale of it? Is he 75 mil? I think.
Yeah,
it's
big, yeah.
So nice big old mini this. So yeah, lovely
Definitely
stuff.
Doesn't skip leg day.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, we'll do an entire Thick Boy episode if people want.
Yeah.
Right. Next up, we've got.
Oh, that's so cool.
I mean,
Tiny little crab, he couldn't resist.
miniature perfection. There we go. Yeah. This
so
account,
happy.
I love it. This account, there's plenty of things like this on it. Like I said a minute ago, it's just, I spend a lot of time looking at really grim and dark and war conflict focused miniatures, and I love it all. But sometimes it's just nice to see something cute. And here he is, or she is, I don't know. This little crustacean. Anyway, they are. So yeah, this, and I think I could, from what I could understand from when I read the description, this is the base. It's done. So it's meant to be
natural sand.
Just natural sand, right? But I love that it's like a natural wood on the plinth too. Like, it's just a bit incongruous that sort of setting the mini on it. It's just, yeah, it's just lovely. I bet it was a ton of fun. So yeah. But someone entered the crab, didn't they, in GD? What's his name?
Anthony.
What's the crab's name? I can't. Doing Claw. Is that right? I think that's right.
Yeah.
But nice to see that little model still getting in there. Right. I think there's a couple more.
Few more.
So this is an account we do feature regularly. But that's because they regularly produce awesome miniatures. So here's another. And these, I think, are really quite big. I don't think they look it here, but I'm pretty sure these are sizable little miniatures. But the art style on the bat in particular, it's just something I love. It reminds me, it's almost got that like Ren and Stimpy vibe, but just I can't think what it is, but I know as a kid I loved that sort of illustration. I don't know, it must have been a comic or a
it's
something.
It's about from Fern Gully.
Is that it? It's just something about it. It's just
Robin Williams.
Really cool, and a lovely painting style. I really, really like this person's painting style.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's just, I don't know. It's just something really, really, really nice about it.
They're in the chat. Nathaniel Cooper.
There we go. And Andy's favourite colour palette.
Yeah.
Is there one more?
There is. There are the 3 best friends that ever were.
Oh, who are the best friends? So this is
me,
nice.
you, and Taro, wasn't it, Neil?
Yeah. You're definitely the dwarf, mate.
A bit too much hair between them three.
I'm the one with the sword.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But you telling me that Taro is fucking Legolas? Are you having a laugh?
I'm Legolas. Taro's whatever he's called, Gimli.
Yeah. Just that wasn't why I picked them, but there we go. So congratulations to James, Andy, and Neil here for their adventures. The 3 hunters off they went to the States and bagged a load of demons. So happy days. The real reason I picked it was I just think they're really cool, and they're miniatures that are on my list to paint, like, bucket
and
list,
tiny as well,
bucket list minis type thing. And I'd also just been looking at the 3 winners from the Lord of the Rings category, and I was just like, it always gives you great paint jobs, and they're just, they're beautiful. So yeah, lovely stuff, and good on as well this person for doing a proper close picture. Too many people. You have to. Oh, fucking zoom in. Like, it's really great to see him like that. So super cool. So that's just a little handful of hashtags as it on there. So if you would like to get in touch with us about a topic, you want to send in a meme, which we'll definitely do a lot more of soon. I promise. We've got quite the backlog. Any time Games Workshop have a reveal show, it's the gift to the internet for me
this week,
right?
wasn't it?
Yeah, so
yeah, the internet remains undefeated.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, if you've got a topic you'd like us to discuss, or you've got artists you think we need to take a look at, get in touch with us on all the usual places. Obviously, we've got the YouTube videos where you're watching us now. We've got Patreon, we've got commissions, we've got Discord, all sorts of bits and bobs, all down in the description. We're not hard to get hold of if you so want to. So thank you very much if you're watching this back. Like, subscribe, all the usual. Helps get it out to different people. If you've joined us live, we always massively appreciate the chat. But guys, again, huge congratulations. We're really, really chuffed for you. You've got to be happy with this one. This was a good trip.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It was the best trip.
It was a good trip. And now 2 for 2, Neil. 5 weeks time at the goal. First of the new wave. That's the new wave to get 3 swords. I'll be opening a book. I'll put odds up soon for Andy, Neil, and Rich. 1st to 3. Yeah, maybe we'll do like Highlander or something with it. Like the 1st to 3, the other 2 give them their swords. That's it.
Well, like championship
like
belts.
Grinder, like they did at Adepticon, where they grind the models that lose.
There you go. Yeah, like pink slip it. Like it'll be it'd be good to do. But no, Neil, thanks as ever. You're an amazing guest, mate. Really, really great to hear some of your thoughts. I think, yeah, as I said earlier, you can have a lot of fans, and quite deservedly. Huge congrats on the sword, Andy. Make a job as ever. I think that's the best G2GD entries you've done for a long time, for what that's worth. So
it's worth a lot.
Really, really tidy. Thanks for joining me, chaps. Thanks for joining us, chat. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.